1 gram of weed looks like that.
So that's how much fucking I'm drinking every day. A couple joints.
I just want to write how much is a gram, and it's like $20 from your guy.
That's the problem with weed going legal now. Now it's fucking with everybody's math because they're gonna be like, I just need a gram of this, or
no, it's the opposite. It needs to go legal so people can fucking understand what the hell gram is.
And then you're gonna be like, what's the difference if I'm trying to teach my kid American money? And I'm like, what's the difference between a nickel and a dime? And they're like, dime bag? Mm-hmm. Order now.
I remember I went into a weed shop in Seattle back when it was only legal in Seattle, and I went because I was like, dude, this is history. I'm gonna go into the first legal weed shop. And I walked in and I was looking at something and I was like, that looks like the right weed that people would need. And they were like, this is for people with glaucoma. And I was like, oh. And they were like, turn around, the recreational shit's that way. I was like, oh, I didn't know. So there's a lot of, the more weed becomes legalized, the more people will understand what kind of strains, like sativa or indica or anything like that.
So one side is less weird shit, more pain relief, and the other side is buy The Wall from Pink Floyd as you're getting it.
No. So weed is like wine, actually. Like you have your Pinot Noirs, your Sauvignon Blancs, like all those different ones. And what the common thing with wine is they all derive from grapes. Weed all derives from a marijuana plant, but there's different strains, like there's different types of grapes and different species, and the more that weed becomes legalized, the more that people can study it and actually define and target which weed you want. Because if you want to go and smoke the weed that you had like back in the fucking 80s, and you smoke the weed that you get from your dealer now, it's not the same. You're going to be like, damn, this is too fucking strong. But then they can turn around and be like, well, what strain did you have back in the 80s? And then you could go to the store and get that specific kind you wanted, as opposed to just being like, oh, I really like port wines. And then someone gives you a fucking rosé. And you're like, there you go. Fuck you. Deal with it. And you're like, this is not the shit I want.
So what's the difference? Because I smoked for like 20 years, almost 2 packs a day. And then the moment electronic cigarettes popped up and somebody told me about them, I went and bought, and it was $80 for this thing that looked like a cigarette, but it was plastic and it's garbage.
Yeah.
And it had the filter part was basically where you had the little, you put, they didn't have it where you could drip it in there. It was just, it came already and you had to buy 20 of these and they're like, each one equals a pack. And it was just shit. And, but I stopped smoking that moment because for me, it was always the physical aspect of it and that throat hit. So, if you have a choice between vaping weed and the real stuff, what's the preference?
It depends on what you're doing.
But I mean, when you're doing the vape, it's more like, let me just get the effect. I don't want to sit around with a bunch of weed smoke in my face all day.
Like, it depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're just like at home and you're like, I gotta go to bed, like, vape. But if you're like, I got friends over, we want to hang out, we're gonna go outside.
Let's just pass it around.
Yeah.
You can't pass around a vape.
You can. And it's just a matter of like what you want to do.
It's just less Apache Indian.
I mean, there's still like a friendship kind of bonding thing when you are like passing a joint around.
Yeah, you guys get to sit there and keep saying the word ear over and over again. Ear! Ear!
I was in Canada and I watched people smoke weed. It was so cool. Because there was a friend who straight up like handed me a joint and I was like, okay. And then I took a hit and I passed it because in America it's puff, puff, pass.
Yeah.
It's like puff, there you go. You have yours. And so I was there with Bertato, Jay. Some of you guys know who he is. And so he was just like, here you go. And I was like, okay. And I puffed and then I passed to Dan. And Dan was like, he puffed and then he passed. And Jay was like, what did you just fucking do? And I was like, I puffed and I passed. And he was like, you just really do that. He's like, I heard that Americans do that. And I can't believe I actually saw that. And I was like, well, that's what you do. And he was like, nope. And it got into like economics and politics of different countries. And like because he's so Canadian, he's like, you take what you want, you take what you need, then you add to the pot. And like, I was like, oh, I just puff, pass. So everybody gets a share. And he's like, well, then nobody gets like a good hit. So like, what the fuck's the point? And I was like, I don't know. I feel really weird about what I just did then. So it was like a really weird discussion about if you smoke weed with people in other countries. You get a little bit of a tiny glimpse of like
Cultures.
what their cultures were just from that, and it was interesting. So like, to an extent, it depends on what you want to go for. If you're like smoking weed, if you want to go like hang out with your friends and just like bond with them and just have a time, then yeah, a joint. But if you're just like, you've been with those friends, you don't care, you're feeling lazy, a vape.
But I don't understand the people that like weed but look down on people that smoke cigarettes. Now, cigarettes, they're constantly walking around smoking. Weed is like occasional.
I don't understand cigarettes.
Well, it's the same. It has the same drug effect, except
Does it?
Not the same effect as in the weirdness of weed. I'm saying you're doing it for a drug. You're doing it because smoking relaxes you. Like, you ever hear like when people say when you get excited, you're having a panic attack, they're like, stop and take slow, deep breaths. And then you're like, do you feel better now? You've taken slow. Every time somebody's on a cigarette, they're like, all they're doing is taking slow, deep breaths and going. It's so calming. It's like,
They
no, that's
smell
because
like
you're.
shit.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when I moved out to California when I was a kid, we didn't have any fucking money. And my roadie and my guitar player both smoked like bandits. And they were like, it's easier to bum a cigarette than a hamburger. Mm-hmm. And cigarettes to keep you from getting hungry. And I was like, what? Well, how many do you have to eat? But so I got into it that way, and it's not like when the first time you give a kid chocolate, they're just like, I want another one. Cigarettes, you're like, this is fucking something. They're like, no, keep doing it. It's like girls and sex. Keep doing it, it'll get better. Maybe.
None of it got better. It was gross. Whenever we did cigarette stuff for like shoots, when we were trying to do the Faye thing, I was like, man, fuck this. This sucks.
Well, that was the other thing is when you light a cigarette, you're just stuck with it. I mean, even a joint goes out if you don't puff it enough. But a cigarette will just keep burning it until it gets to the fucking end. I mean, I've known people that have actually died because they fell asleep with a cigarette in their hand, and then it fell down and burned their hand and fell on the carpet and just kept burning and burnt their house down. But when I got to this, I was like, oh, no, I take a puff and I just put the fucker away somewhere. Because I knew people that would be like, so with cigarettes, they'd take, and then they put it out, and then they'd like put it back in the thing and save it. No. Which I guess you do with joints too, if you want. You go back in there, it's like a roach that big, and you're just like, I swallowed it.
No, a joint's different. It's more of like a friend thing. It's just a communal thing. It's a good time. That's it.
Only time I've ever done pot was with two chicks that said they'd sleep with me if I did.
That's weird. Their priorities are weird.
They could have said, let's do bridge jumping. And I would have been like, without a parachute,
that's literally a Dare fucking PSA commercial that you were just involved in. You're like in high school, or no, elementary school, and you like raise your hand and they're like, just say no to drugs, David. You're gonna be put in positions where you're gonna be like swayed by other people, and you're like, oh no, I'm afraid. And you have like deer eyes, and then you go to the 80s and they're like, well, fuck you if you smoke a J. And you're like, yes, I will.
Sure.
You're supposed to say no.
How would you say that?
Because no one's going to take your virginity from them. No one's going to get in the way of me and my fucking virginity.
Well, I didn't like it because it dried my throat out. And the first time I didn't feel anything, but the second time the second time I was at my mom's house visiting from California, and that's where I was sitting at a little table like this, and she had one of these swinging lamps that went over the thing, and I was sitting there going, all right, maybe I'm stoned. I should try to write some lyrics like Jim Morrison. And then the whole time I bumped the lamp by mistake, and it started moving, and it was like, it looks like I'm on a boat.
Yeah, you're high as fuck.
Because the light is moving like this, like you're on a boat. So then I was sitting there just writing and stuff, and I just kept tapping the lamp. So just keep like, I'm on a boat. So I was like, this fucking doesn't do shit for me, man. I don't know all you dope heads need this shit. I'm on a boat. But I was just sitting there trying to write some lyrics, and I just needed that boat look. So I just kept bapping that thing back and forth all night. That was the last time I did it, because after that I was like, no more boat shit for me. That's fucking weird.
I think so because of that, if the legalization of marijuana goes through in 50 states in the US, you would have been able to know what strain of what kind of weed you had and been like, that fucked me up. I want to try something different. I don't want that experience. You could walk in and they'd be like, what are you having a problem with? Like, and then you could be like, well, I want to regulate my sleep schedule, but I don't want to feel stupid enough to where I can't edit photos. Like, I want to be able to still have an attention span and focus. They'll be like, okay, well, here's what you need, and here of this strain, of this type, of this amount, here you go. But you'd be like, I have back pain. I'm not interested in anything else except for like XYZ. And they'll be like, well, you don't want skunk ape.
Yeah.
You want some other generic brand. And that's what the benefit of legalization of marijuana would provide.
I just don't think it would be smart for you to do it. And I send you a bunch of pictures and you're just like, what the fuck? And I'll be like, I just thought your skin looked better purple.
I mean, I've never done anything like that. The only thing is like I've had like stupid thoughts. Like I'll write shit on Twitter and be like one time I got really high and I was just like sitting there in my room by myself and I was like, could you imagine being the first person to hear a parrot talk? Like if you're sitting here and you're like a bird is just in here and it's like, hello, and you're like, that fucker just fucking talked to me. And then you tell your friend, you're like, I heard that bird said hello to me. And you're like, we'll do it again. And it doesn't. And then it starts laughing at you. Like, holy shit, that fucked me up.
But that's the problem with dope. That's why you say
that's scary though.
But that's why you say it's like a communal thing, because then it's like, I'm talking to you about something really cool. And you're like, I don't understand a fucking word you're saying. It doesn't make sense. I'm like, no, here. And then you just, oh, no, man, I get you now. I get you. It makes sense to me now.
No, because I've had this discussion on stream, and everybody in my chat was like, that would fuck me up. Dude, like, no, seriously, if you heard a parrot talk for the first time and nobody else has heard it, and it starts talking to you, I realistically would kill the bird. I would shoot it in the face. And you didn't know that species is supposed to just mimic other people's noises. You think that bird is a part of Satan.
There was this one thing, I think it was like a joke or something, but it was a guy breaks into a house or something and there's a parrot in there. Mm-mm. And the parrot starts saying, what? Jesus is watching? And the guy's like, what the fuck? And he walking around doing stuff and trying to steal stuff, and it's like, oh, Jesus is watching. And then all of a sudden this Rottweiler comes out with a collar that says Jesus on it, so...
No.
That would be trippy.
No, I mean, if anything, some weed will make you want to watch stupid videos all night. Some weed will just make you want to eat food all night. Some other ones will make you want to be more conversational and social. It just depends.
So basically none of them have any benefits whatsoever.
No, they do.
I mean, if you have cancer or something like that, then all that shit comes in handy.
They do. That's my point is the legalization of marijuana would help regulate information of what strand does what.
The good thing is it would clear traffic up because everybody would be home watching stupid videos eating Doritos.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, people shit on weed all the time, but, like, people normalize Good Morning America housewives drinking wine at 6 a.m. going, hey, it's morning time. And you're like, Jesus Christ. These fucking women drinking wine at 6 a.m. There's DUIs. People fucking run other people over while drunk driving at home. And then the people who are smoking weed, they're paranoid that you might think they're high because they're at TCBY putting Fruity Pebbles in their soft serve. And they're like, I don't even want to talk to anybody. I want to go home. And so they do. Most of them stay home. They're chill.
I just think we're going to need a whole new, a separate division of the traffic police. Because right now they're out looking for drunk drivers and shit like that. We're just going to need somebody who pulls up and says, can you speed the fuck up? You're going 30. You're going 30. And the speed limit's 55 and you're going 30 like this.
No.
That's all the weed people.
The weed people, they're not really driving around most of the time.
Or you're in the bottom of the seat doing like, what up, vato?
No. But...
No, my mom used to she always smoked pot and she never thought we knew. And
it's harmless.
We always, I never gave a shit. She actually got high with one of my girlfriends.
She didn't want you to know because she's fucking paranoid. Because it's a side effect of some of the strains she was smoking.
But you know what she did is when she moved up, she bought some property and bought a place on it or something like that. But the neighbors had property, but they didn't move anything on there. So she went on their property and grew weed. And then eventually the fucking weed police, somebody reported it, showed up and arrested her fucking neighbors, thinking they were growing weed on their property. And it was actually my mom and her friends that were, it was their weed. But
Did they know the property lines, so they just did it on purpose?
Yeah, they do it on somebody else's. So if the cops showed up, it would be on somebody else's.
Fuck, that's dick move.
It's the weed business, man. You know. It's kill or be killed.
That's fucking awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that on weed.
She was probably paranoid because she smoked a joint.
That's a dick move, man. That's fucked up. She fucked up that person's life. That's also like petty theft and petty crimes and shit need to not be so harshly.
There's a lot of people. Well, a lot of people are probably in jail over weed.
Yeah, let them out. Jails are over fucking packed. And it stresses the tax dollar out, man. We're paying for all of those.
You know
people.
that Ted Bundy's girlfriend used to smuggle in drugs in her bat cave, and then he'd put them in his butt.
Nice.
And then he'd smuggle them back. So he was talking about he was always getting drugs and pills and everything else.
I would do that if I was in Lifetime with the shit.
Death row.
Yeah, death row is actually like the spa version of jail if you have to choose. But if I was in jail like that, I'd fuck around and find out because I would.
What are you gonna do? OD?
What are you gonna do? Arrest me?
Yeah.
Like, but also, I would just straight up. I do shit to live a little. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't do drugs like that. But, like, I would be like, smuggle it so I can get an adrenaline rush of being excited to do something. And I was telling John Gray this. I was like, if I was just walking with security guards and I'm on death row, I'll just fight them just because I want to. Just
They know
I
that.
Yeah, just because I'm bored.
They can't give you 2 death sentences. What's the point?
Yeah, I'm not getting out of life alive. I'm on death row. So, like, yeah, just fuck around and
That's
find
why
out.
those guys are locked up.